Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It is time for something completely different. That's right. We are going to try our hands at our first ever 1v1 tournament. It's called a Fistful of Tangoes. If you don't get the reference, I suggest you do some Googling. But with all that being said, we have a ton of great players in this tournament. It is going to be North American and European only. I know some people want to see the top Asians, but it's an online event. Ping would be an issue. So we've stuck with North America and Europe this time around, but if this goes well in the future, there will be an Asian event. $500 in total prizes at stake. The players win $20 for each match that they win, and then first place is an additional $200. So lots of money for everybody. And hey, it's 1v1. Ideally, the matches are pretty quick, so it's a quick cash grab, but there's stiff competition along the way. So a lot of these players are working pretty hard to practice from what I've been hearing. Tons of great matchups, tons of exciting games, new blood and old blood. We've got some established veterans, we've got some new up-and-coming players, and we've got some who are returning to the scene. With all that being said, I am not alone for this cast. I am LD, and I'm joined here today by none other than Statsman Bruno.
How are you, LD?
I'm fantastic, Bruno. So before we really dive into the action today, I think we should start by going over the rules. This is something, if you read Reddit, if you read Team Liquid, there's going to be, everybody has their own ideas about what the rules should be, but here's what they are for this event. No bottle crowing, rule number 1. No soul ring, rule number 2. No neutrals, rule number 3. An extra 150 gold for the courier, and you have to spend it on the courier. You can't save it for a rainy day.
Sounds good.
As far as hero selection goes, there are 3 predetermined possible matchups, and I can see that apparently someone, namely myself, doesn't know how to spell, but that's okay. We'll roll with it. We give the players 3 predetermined matchups, possibilities. They don't know which one it's going to be. Then they each get a secret veto. Boy, this sounds top secret, man.
That's interesting. Actually, do you want to explain very, very quickly why no soul ring and no bottle crowing?
Well, the main reason is that it's just really boring. Bottle crowing, soul ringing, it just allows you to spam your nukes. It makes it harder to get kills. It encourages more of a passive style of play. So that's the main reason why we've banned bottle crowing and soul ring. And along those lines, players are allowed to buy a bottle and ferry it to themselves. They just can't ferry it back and forth to the fountain. So you can use bottle. Runes are enabled because there's no way to disable them right now.
Yeah.
So we did decide to go with runes just to keep things a little more interesting. And, well, aside from that, let's move forward through the hero selection. So we have each player gets a secret veto, and then there's 2 possibilities. One is they both veto the same hero. The other is they each veto a different, not a hero, but a matchup. One possibility is they both veto the same matchup. The other possibility is they veto different matchups. If they veto the same matchup, then there's 2 left. We flip a coin to determine which of those 2 matchups will be used. If they veto different matchups, then there's only 1 left. Now, the players don't know which hero they're going to play. They're vetoing matchups, not heroes. So it's not really a ban in your traditional sense. It's a little bit different, just to make sure everyone's clear on that. So once this process is complete, we have a matchup, but we don't know who's playing which hero, and we don't know which side they're going to be on. That's where we go to coin flips again. There is no picking in this tournament. It's all random, Bruno. If you're a gambler, you're going to be happy with this. Coin flips determine heroes and sides. Both of those are determined randomly. And then when all that's out of the way, we play. And the first to 2 kills or 2 towers is the victor.
That's actually quite interesting.
Yeah,
I mean,
so thoughts?
I haven't yet seen the matchups. I'm going to see them right now, but I guess it makes sense. Some heroes you want to push really, really fast, and some heroes you want to just go and kill the other guy, right?
Yeah, it's that's the thing, is when we were building the matchups, we tried to think about, well, how can this hero win the matchup? Like, how do you either get to 2 kills or 2 towers? Those are the victory conditions. So if you're playing against this hero, can you kill them? And if not, can you push against them? So that was our goal, was mostly to figure out matchups where each player had each hero had a way to try and win the match. So obviously it's not same heroes, so there is going to be some element of imbalance. It's pretty much inevitable. If you're not the same, there's probably one that's a little bit stronger, but hopefully the matches will be close and fairly interesting to watch. So with all that being said, we've gone through the rules. Let's move on to the brackets for today. This is day number 1. This is our first match. So as you can see, none of the matches have been played. Berto, it's going to be Fear, a long-standing, one of the most established North American players, players, period, in the Western scene, up against a bit of a newcomer in S4.
Uh-huh. That's interesting. Actually, I'm looking now at the four brackets, and I want to choose which one's my favorite, but it's really hard. They're all really good.
Yeah, there's and it's some players who maybe are a bit more rusty to competitive play. Like if you look at the top of the bracket, you have Merlini, who obviously he's still got a lot of the mechanical skill, but he hasn't been playing competitive, and whether he'd like to admit it or not, and I think he would be the first to admit it. If you're not playing competitive, you do get a bit rusty, and it's not quite the same. Nothing better than that trial by fire. So we have players like that. Then we have really a player in Saint Sane who's been a fan favorite but hasn't really been on a team in a while. And then you've got people with something to prove. Cinderin, a player who's got, I'm sure, a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He's encountered a lot of criticism from the community. People saying he should play support. And whether you agree with that or not, anybody who reads what the community has to say, it's going to get in your head one way or another. I can tell you that as a caster. We get a lot of feedback too. So,
Well, to be fair, 1v1 is not Dota, right? Because, I mean, you're playing mid, and in essence, you're doing the same that you're doing when you're playing solo mid in a match, but you don't have to worry about ganks. You don't have to worry about, like, well, I get a haste run, I go ganking another lane or something like that. So it's all about fighting the guy you have in front of you, and that changes things. So maybe it's not, I mean, you have to take yourself away from the team mentality of playing standard Dota and go for something different just for this game, right?
absolutely. I mean, I think the way to put it is it's a bit artificial, and that's definitely true. It's not really simulating what 1v1 mid is actually like, because 1v1 is very rarely in a vacuum, especially nowadays. We see support smoking and ganking and checking runes and doing all sorts of things early on. So some heroes either become stronger or weaker because of that. And hopefully the matchups still remain fairly interesting despite that. But with all that being said, I think there is a lot of Dota in it. It may not be true Dota, but there's certainly a lot of elements. Things like lane control, positioning, mana conservation, when to push the lane, when to get aggressive against your opponent. All these little things, plus just the raw mechanics. I mean, that's still in Dota, whether it's 5v5 or 1v1. So for me, I think it is going to be pretty exciting to watch. But you're right. It's definitely something different. This is supposed to be a fun tournament, something special for the holidays. By the way, Merry Christmas to everybody. But yeah, Fear versus S4, that's today's matchup. So with all that being said, that's enough talking about the brackets. Let's dive into today's match. As we look at today's match, the vetoes were done in advance. So both players, Veto TA versus Windrunner. And from what I've been hearing, most of them think the TA is just a little bit too strong in that matchup.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you can argue that Windrunner can help you against the first burst from TA, but I mean, in the grinding of the lane, the going back and forth, TA definitely outdamages Windrunner. And, well, I mean, it's one of the strongest mid heroes for a reason, and we don't see Windrunner go in that mid position that often. So I guess, yeah, it kind of makes sense that both went to. We don't want to be the ones playing with a Windrunner in this matchup, and as you said, it's a flip of a coin. So
at the same time, though, it's something that God's actually brought up in some forum posts is, if you feel like you're a weaker player, which hopefully none of these players do, because you got to have confidence to compete against the best. But with that being said, if you think you're at a disadvantage, either just against a certain player, or you're hungover, or you're gonna be hungover, or whatever the case might be, maybe you look to leave an imbalanced matchup in the pool and just roll the dice, hope that you get the better heroes. So there is always that element of strategy and luck to it. But in this case, I think it's safe to say both players did play it safe. They ban out the TA versus Windrunner. And then the other two matchups that remain, Shadow Fiend versus Tinker and Magnus versus Marana. I would be really excited to see those. I'd love to see, well, really any combination of these two players in those two matchups.
yeah, I mean, they're very balanced matchups, actually, now that I'm looking at it, because, I mean, again, we see Mirana not often in that solo mid position, but she's really good against Magnus. I mean, she can survive with that leap. It's very survivable. But Magnus is, well, it's a hero that needs that early kill, that early going.
Yeah.
Same with Tinker and Shadowfiend. I mean, Tinker can blight a Shadowfiend, yeah, but Shadowfiend still has his races, and at level 7, he's really strong, and he can kill the Tinker if Tinker's not careful. And vice versa as well, because Shadowfiend is such a weak hero, I mean, HP-wise, and a couple of rockets and maybe a March or Laser can definitely kill him without him realizing that he's already at low health.
I think for future days, I'm going to have to hide the coin flip until afterwards. Something to work on for future broadcasts. But as you guys can see, we have already done the coin flip, and it is going to be, well, it's not going to be that Magnus versus Marana matchup. It's going to be actually Shadow Fiend versus Tinker. And by 2 coin flips, we have S4 on the Shadow Fiend on the Radiant side versus Fear on the Tinker on the Dire. So an interesting matchup. This mid lane, Shadow Fiend versus Tinker, they are both very, very squishy.
Who do you think has an advantage here? I mean,
I would say Tinker has the edge. I think that Blind is just too powerful. Laser is too much burst, and Rockets gives you that long range harass. Versus any squishy, I would generally give Tinker the edge, but in order to get into laser range, you do come into Shadow Razor range. So I think it's something where if Shadow Fiend has the high ground position, if he does a better job of controlling the creep wave, he could have a shot, but I would probably give a slight edge to the Tinker. How about you?
yeah. I think it's all about the first 2 minutes. If Shadow Fiend can get those early souls quickly enough, I mean, he can avoid the Tinker laser and get a couple of last hits going. Well, I mean, it's going to get harder and harder for Tinker to last hit. And the way these heroes are going, unless one of them plays really, really aggressive, we might not see any kill until level 5. And by that time, I mean, CS counts for a lot because you can get like quick boots, I don't know, face boots for the damage, lots of things. There are lots of things you can go for. And I mean, that's clear. If Tinker can win the first 2 minutes and Shadow Fiend gets no damage, then Tinker clearly has the advantage. But if Shadow Fiends get until 16 souls or so, well, it's a completely different story.
It could be painful for the Shadow Fiend. We'll have to see. And like you mentioned, Blind is very annoying when you're trying to last hit. Plus, Shadow Fiend has that lower base damage, but Shadow Razors are going to allow you to farm anyway. So we'll see. This should be an exciting match. Two very squishy glass cannon style heroes. Who's going to blow up first? We're about to find out. That's enough yammering, folks. It's time to get this rodeo on the road.
Shadow Fiend. Prepare for battle.
Welcome inside the game. The 1v1 is underway. And here we go. It's going to be S4 on that Shadow Fiend heading solo mid as the Radiant from No Tidehunter. On the Dire side, we have at Fear Dota. Be sure to follow him and support him. I don't actually think S4 has a Twitter, but if he doesn't, he should absolutely get one. Fear, of course, from Team Evil Geniuses.
And this is really interesting. Look for... no one is rushing a battle this time. I mean, they realize that without battle crowing, probably it's not as cost-effective, and they need the damage. The interesting thing is that Tinker got the early wards. I mean, he really wants to know where the runes are. Whether he's going to go for a quick battle after this, or he just wants the rune for the double damage or haste, or any advantage. Well, I think he's going for it. On the other hand, S4 is using the courier to scout runes, apparently. What do you think of that?
This is something a little bit unusual, to say the least. He's also keeping his hero near that rune in case it does spawn. The wards on the bottom side of the map from Fear, it's something where you put that ward bottom, and then if Shadow Fiend tries to go for it, you're going to have long-range vision to just throw rockets out there. So if he's ever low HP and he tries to go for this rune, it's dangerous. And the top rune, well, it's very easy to access for the Dire, as well as the Radiant. That bottom rune is generally a little bit more favorable for the Dire, one of the advantages they have in the 1v1 mid lane. So, we'll see. What do you know? Fear luckied into that haster to start things off.
Interesting how Tinker decided to just go for the rune while Shadow Fiend is getting the creep wave on his side. Oh, now he'll have a lot of advantage with that creep wave.
Oh, he overblocked. Normally when you're 1v1, the enemy also blocks, but he doesn't, and so it ends up under the tower. This is really going to hurt S4.
This is really tough. I mean, he doesn't get any last hit from there. Oh, he got just one. Unfortunately, it will not be enough. I mean, it's just one soul, but hopefully he can get that quick level 2 and make something happen.
Yeah, this is... It's what... You know, I don't know if Fear intended that to happen, if he expected S4 to creep block, but if he did, that's brilliant. So skip your creep block and then have the wave push into the enemy tower. Sure, they get to last hit safely under their tower for one wave, but now look at where the creep wave is. It's all the way across the hill. So if that was the plan by Fear, it was a brilliant one, I gotta say.
Well, I mean, you just look at the score, it's 4-2 versus just 1. So it's working for him. Now, S4 has to use the Shadow Races to actually get some last hits here.
Yeah, and you can see, even when he does get blinded, that's always an option for you. You can throw the raise out there and look to last it that way, but that level 1 raise isn't really good and isn't really that reliable for last hitting. And as we look at base damage, what is it right now? 52 on the Shadow Fiend, 61 on the Tinker, constant laser spam. One of the other annoying things about laser is that Tinker's got a big mana pool, and it's actually not that expensive.
Nope. I mean, it's 120 damage now that he's level 2, but it's okay. I mean, you have a huge mana pool, and it damages you so bad.
Oh man, he's getting like poked in the eye with a hot skewer every time that laser comes out. The rune is about to spawn. Fear's got the ward vision. S4 does not, and he's not pushing the lane either, so it looks like Fear's at least going to have the jump if he wants to go for the runes. Now, neither of these heroes have mobility skills, but rune's something that Shadow Fiend usually is able to secure by spamming those raises when they spawn. Not doing it this game.
Yep. But it's an invisibility rune, and Tinker knows that he doesn't really want to get him until he gets a bottle, if he's going for it. Because, I mean, in a laning situation, what does invisibility do for you? Nothing.
I mean, where could you be? Remember, in the rules, there's no neutral lane. You're not allowed to go farm the other lane, so it's something which, if you're not in the lane, you're not getting experience or gold, and generally that should cost you. So you're right. It's how much does it do? But we will have to see.
Yep.
You never know.
Shadow Fiend is up to 6 souls now, 247. Well, almost 3 minutes.
17 last hits to 6. And I mean, this is something I think Tinker will have the edge in last hit anyway with that superior base damage and laser to prevent Shadow Fiend from using his auto attack last hits. But all that being said, that early failure, not creep blocking really screwed S4 over. And because, it's like you said, it's all about that first 2 minutes. If you get the early souls, you're in a decent position. But if you're not, then things start to get tougher. Now S4 is going to guess topper and doesn't find it. He knows it's bottom, but can he actually go for it?
Not really, and he doesn't have a bottle yet, so...
Yeah, he's up to 580 gold. He still doesn't have it. Fear already has his, constantly spamming the laser on cooldown. And he sees that rune. He's positioned himself towards the southern side of the river, so if S4 tries to make a run for it, Fear will get it first. This is looking good for Fear so far, and S4's got to be feeling a little bit nervous. Oh.
Ouch.
Ouchie, ouchie.
That really hurts now.
And Bruno's
it's
apparently...
240 pure damage.
And Bruno's apparently at a rock concert. Or actually, no, I am, because I had a stream open in the background. Oh, I thought that was you for a second. I was going to say nice ringtone. But, yeah, so he's going to pick up that invis. He'll come back mid. And he's not missing that much CS, but he is giving S4 a lot. S4's up to 14 souls, which is pretty damn good, I gotta say, considering.
Well, yeah, I mean, the fact that Fear got 2 runes in 1 row, so...
Yeah, he also got the illusion rune. He bottled the invis, used it, now comes out with the illusion. Here we go, S4 gets lasered once, takes a lot of damage. There's no boots on Taker, there's no boots on Shadow Fiend. They have the same base move speed. The chase is on. Bruno, cue the Benny Hill music.
Oh, keep running. I mean, 1 rocket can kill him, right? It's 170. Oh, no, he can survive 1 rocket. He needs 1 rocket at 1 auto attack or laser.
And Fear sees
I think
it.
S4 is going to survive this.
Oh, this is gonna be close. He's running around the corners like a boss. Fear still chasing him, waiting for the angle, watching Fear's fog of war. The laser connects, drills him in the face. First blood for Fear. And the courier was almost collateral damage there as well.
Yeah, but I mean, he survived. It was really unfortunate. He was delivering that bottle to him. He had that bottle 1 second before. He could have solved. I mean,
no, he actually already had the bottle. He was delivering boots, but either way, it would have been the same thing. If the boots got there in time, he would have gotten away.
Yep, that's unfortunate. And now he has to walk back because he doesn't have enough money to OTP. So Tinker's getting more levels. He's level 6 now, and Shadow Fiend is slowly crawling. With 9 souls.
And this is where things get really tricky with Shadow Fiend. If you walk up to raise the creep wave or to auto attack, you're getting lasered in the face. And there you go. He's forced back immediately. And if Shadow Fiend was even level, he could probably trade decently. But when he's behind like this, he's got to be very, very careful. Fear's got to have something big on the courier. What is it? Magic Wand, a fresh set of observers. I also want to point out, we haven't talked about it. This hill ward is really helpful as Tinker.
Yep. I mean... It's been really, really useful to him. He knows that he can go for the rocket even if he's on the top of the hill, because with that vision he can get what he wants. Oh, and S4 is really unfortunate. He's going for the rune again, but he can't find it. I mean, runes are all Tinker this game.
Yeah, Fear is getting the runes, but in Fear's defense, he's mostly had the wards up. This time around, doesn't though. We'll expect to see him drop one on the hill. There you go. The hill ward dies over in mid, but we'll see him probably replace that soon. And how do you break out of this contain if you're S4? How do you start to kind of turn the match around?
Well, I mean, he's getting the upper hand on last hits now, which is some kind of a consolation prize. But he has no mana. He has to go back to base and get a TP. And that means that Tinker will start out leveling him really, really hard. And when he gets level 8, he has 355 damage from that Tiki missile and 320 from that laser. That's, I mean, after resistance and everything, it's almost 600 damage.
Yeah, it's
And
obviously...
That's 682, just. That's
yeah,
it.
so a couple auto attacks, which his auto attacks hit decently hard. There's your laser. Double raise flies out. And actually the triple raise, but does connect on 2. Fear sitting back, being a little bit more defensive now. And double damage picked up on him. This could be scary. I mean, one auto attack, laser rocket, you're pretty much dead.
Yep, and there he comes.
Maybe not one, maybe 2 or 3 auto attacks, but it's scary. Laser, rocket! Remember, if S4 dies, he's done! Fear diving in the tower, S4 juking, he survives by the skin of his teeth.
Yeah, and now he has to go back to base once again. And even if he gets a TP, I think he still has a cooldown.
This is what we talked about. If you don't get those early last hits, if you fall even slightly behind the Tinker, and you're squishy like Shadow Fiend, it does snowball really hard against you. So Fear, playing this matchup well, he can smell victory. He wants those $20, he wants those tangos, and I'm sure he would also love to move his way closer to that $200 prize.
Yep, and now he's TPing back, and he's TPing way, way too careful right now. He really is scared.
And unfortunately, even when he hits the one raise, Tinker could just walk away from him. And now, going for the rune's top. He's got the ward bottom, so he knows exactly where it is. And just making his life really difficult.
Oh, look, he's going to wait with an illusion, apparently.
Yeah, let's see if S4 is going to fall for this. How well will he play it? Doesn't have vision right now of the main Tinker. Oh, he's walking into the river. Bruno, this could be the end. This could be it.
Oh no, S4.
No mana. He's got the wand charges. Doesn't pop them. One raise. S4 goes high ground. Now running. Fear waiting. Sending the illusion around for behind. It's a flanking maneuver from Fear. S4 is a little bit trapped. He doesn't want to walk all the way around because then he's losing out on so much. But if he goes directly down the hill, he could be in trouble. Fear lets him out of his cage.
Apparently, he's going to survive for now. But, I mean, it's getting harder and harder for the Shadow Fiend now. And even if he's almost full souls for level 3 Necromancery, now he is full souls.
He's actually even with Tinker in last hits. He's not last hitting poorly, but this format, it's not about your farm. 2 towers or 2 kills, that's all it takes.
And even if it was about farm, he has to spend 2 TPs to go back.
Oh, this could be it!
Oh!
Popped him like a balloon. The GGs come out. S4 is defeated. Congratulations to Fear. Fear will be moving on into the winner bracket semifinals.
That was a great match.
Tough match.
Tough match. I wouldn't like to be... I'm not a great Shadow Fiend, I have to confess, LD, but... I wouldn't want to be in the position he was after 5 minutes. I mean, feels like you're losing the battle, and you're losing and losing even more every single time.
And you can see Fear saying, I wonder who comes up with those matchups as we switch over to the brackets. So we'll take a look at the brackets now. Fear is going to be moving forward into the winner bracket semifinals. He'll be playing the winner of Funnick versus Kuroki. That should be a pretty exciting matchup. I think I think a lot of people were like, oh, isn't Kuroki a support player? Guys, that's not always been the case. He has played some support as of late, but he is not a pure support player.
Oh no, he played every single position there is. I mean, from the hard carry, he's been a great solo mid. There's a reason why the Chinese call him the K-God, right?
Yeah, I mean, he is one of the few players who has that God appended to the end of his name. You've got your K-God, your M-God, your Y-God, your B-God. It's only a select few. I mean, certainly less. It's probably like around, I don't know, 5 or 6 players who've ever gotten that name towards them, and Kuroki is one of them.
Yep.
So that's going to be what happens with Fear. With S4, he's going to drop down to the loser's bracket, and who does he play? He is going to play the loser of C, which is going to be the loser of Funnick versus Kuroki. So these should be a pretty interesting matchup on both fronts. S4, he's sort of an up-and-coming unknown solo mid, and I mean, it did seem like a matchup that generally the Tinker should have the edge in, but I got to give Fear a lot of credit. He outplayed S4. I loved the early Observer wards. I loved the fact they didn't block that creep wave and putting the high ground ward. He did everything right, all the little touches to pull ahead in that matchup.
It's the small things that wins games. I mean, especially in these 1v1 matches. I mean, you have 5 minutes to make an impact, and in 5 minutes you know how it's going to be. So every single thing counts, and he made the most out of what he had. So congratulations to him.
Yeah, congratulations to him. Fear takes $20, but it's all about that first place, $200 for actually winning the tournament. Nothing aside from whatever you win from each individual match for those who play second or worse. So with all that being said, that wraps it up for today's cast from A Fistful of Tangos. But before we leave you guys, let's talk about tomorrow's matchup. It's going to be Cinderin versus Merlini tomorrow, December 26th, the day after Christmas at 19 SGT, which, unless I've done something horrible with the math here, should be 6 a.m. EST if you're on the East Coast of the United States, or 13 CET if you're over in Europe. Cinderin versus Merlini. Bruno, your thoughts?
That's a matchup I want to see. I mean, Cinderin, every team he plays in is an instant fan favorite. I mean, people were cheering for MTW even when he started in the first DreamHack, when he went to with the Frenchies for the International 2. And I mean, even now, even though he's not playing as many tournaments as before, but I mean, people still like him. And Merlini, I mean, is Merlini, right? I mean, he's a legend. Ben Wu, the legend. And he's streaming right now, and he gets lots and lots of people watching his stream. So both of them will have lots of people rooting for them. We're going to see who's the best now.
Yeah, like I said, I think Cinderin has a little bit to that he feels he wants to prove. And I know he's been practicing hard for this tournament. On the side of Merlini, you know, he's talked about maybe coming back to competitive play. He hasn't said he's going to yet. He stood in for Absolute Legends Mania's team a couple of weeks back. So he's been getting, putting his feet in the water. He hasn't fully dove in yet, but it should be a real treat of a match. Two big names, an exciting matchup, each player with their own unique story coming into it. That will kick off tomorrow, the day after Christmas. And I'm not supposed to do this. God's told me I'm not allowed to, but I'm doing it anyway. Guys, there is a possibility that Merlini, or there's one matchup in the three there that involves a Zeus. So it's possible we could see a Merlini Zeus, and that is something.
Whoa.
That is something that I think people will want to tune in for.
If you haven't been around in Dota 1 and you're saying Zeus, Merlini, why? You just go to YouTube and search. I mean, just go and write Merlini Zeus and check it out, because I mean, he's a pretty decent Zeus player.
If you type in those two words, I'm pretty sure the first result is the video that you have in mind. And that's not something you could say. Like, you could even type in Dendy Pudge, but I don't know that there's one Dendy Pudge game that just stands out the way that one Merlini Zeus game does. And, I mean, it was a real signature moment. I don't want to spoil it, but Bruno, now that you mentioned that, I think I'll have to play that before the match tomorrow, if we do end up getting that Merlini Zeus. This should be an exciting match that we're going to have tomorrow. But, guys, for now, that does wrap it up. Thank you all very much for tuning in. G League is coming up next. But as for A Fistful of Tangos, this is going to be it. LD and Bruno signing off.
GG, guys.